Well, hi, this is Steve Hansen from Wits Community, and we're trying out an experiment here. This is a Lion Publishers live stream, and we're going to talk a little bit about how things have been going with the election. I'm up in northwestern Wisconsin. I'm on here with Tom Ray from the Illinois Eagle in Springfield, Illinois. Hello, Tom.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, I guess. This is all wildly experimental for me. I'm in this RV that is supposed to become a traveling studio for us at some point, but right at the moment I'm busy trying to keep it from leaking all over and stuff like that. But I thought I'd try this out tonight, and there were some internet issues and good stuff like that. How's the election treating you?
So far, good. There haven't been any problems in Illinois, and there's only one or two big elections that really getting all focused down here.
There are a bunch of races in Wisconsin that'll be interesting, but since the polls don't close for another hour here, we're not hearing anything on those. And just a little bit about the national presidential race. There are a couple of states that have been called by AP, but certainly not enough to make any judgment from.
Oh yeah.
The big excitement up here is I had a number of readers complain about the fact that they went in to vote and their poll workers were not wearing masks or socially distancing or anything like that, despite a real clear order from the State Election Commission that all poll workers have to wear masks, although voters didn't. So I complained to the Election Commission about that, and so did some of the voters, and I think it got resolved eventually, but although it's hard to know and I didn't get a chance to drive out there. But it's just a township that's not too far from where I live.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about anything like along those lines in our election. Right now, most people are focusing on the Fair Tax Amendment. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard a little about it, yeah.
And one congressional race in particular. Actually, the district I'm in, 13th district, it's held by Rodney Davis, Republican. He's the co-chair of the Trump campaign here. He's running against Betsy Londrigan. She ran against him 2 years ago. Barely lost to him. About 5,000 votes. There's suburbs of Springfield that have fewer people. So and they're having a rematch this year.
Okay, yeah. We have a number of races that are kind of interest here. I think in my area, probably the most interesting is the 7th Congressional District, which went up completely for grabs this year, and we have a former state representative running for it, Tom Tiffany, as a Republican against Tricia Zunker, who's really kind of an interesting person. She's running as a Democrat. She's Native American and is actually a judge in the Native American court system up here. And it'll be really interesting because they're very, very, very different attitudes. Tom Tiffany's been sort of, despite what his campaign ads say, in that position where any kind of control or improvement in the environment is something he's against. So it'll be an interesting race. It's been a pretty traditionally Republican seat, and so I suspect that's how it'll go. But, I think everything's up for grabs this year.
Yeah, it should be. It's gonna be an interesting night. I've been checking the AP, they just called a few states. The AP is saying that Trump has won Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Biden has gotten Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New Jersey.
And I think Vermont.
Yes, he did win Vermont earlier,
Yeah.
as well as Virginia.
Yeah, so things will be rolling in. The vote count in Wisconsin is going to be, I'm afraid, really late tonight, partly because of the huge number of absentee ballots and partly because one fairly big county, Outagamie County, has a voting problem. They sent out some undetermined number of absentee ballots that won't read. There's a little white line through one of the timing marks on the ballot, and the ballot readers won't accept them. They kick them back out. So they're having, and they had actually asked to be able to just fill in that little white line with a Sharpie on them, and because they do go through the reader then, but the courts said they couldn't do that, and they're having to take all of what might be 13,000 ballots and transfer them onto good ballots and then read them. So that'll take a while. They've got a bunch of National Guard up there helping out with it because it's going to be a long, painful evening. Although I understand it's going okay so far.
Yeah, they actually called out the National Guard down here. They haven't been called out to any place in particular. So I do know that. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, you froze for a minute there.
Okay. They have been boarding up Chicago in expectation of unrest up there.
Yeah, I had heard that. And I'm sure there have been some places in Wisconsin that have done the same, but so far everything's been pretty copacetic. I think, the big concern maybe is about tomorrow, since we may not, actually have results certainly not for the president tonight.
Yeah, I know Illinois, the Board of Election reported that they had more than double the amount of early voting than what they had in 2016.
Yeah,
and what they had in 2016, and today couldn't start until the day to count.
Here we had about 2/3 of the normal count in pre-voting, either absentee or early in the polls voting, and I suspect we may break a record here for participation because the polls have been fairly busy today.
Oh yeah, same here.
They certainly were early in the morning when I went out in early afternoon. Things had kind of slowed down to more or less a normal pace, but a lot of the poll workers seem to be expecting a big rush, right around now.
Yeah, the polls here closed about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, ours don't close for another 50 minutes, so we'll see.
Yeah. I've been keeping an eye on stuff all day. Some people call it doom scrolling.
Yes, I know. I have friends who are doing that, and I have friends who've just decided, I'm going to drink and eat pizza and, watch dumb TV shows because I can't stand it. A lot of suspense.
Given a choice, I'd be playing my video game right now. But this is something that's too important not be covering.
Sure. Well, tell me a little about your publication, because I only know a little bit about it.
Okay, the Illinois Eagle LGBTQ online newspaper. There is a sizable gay community in Illinois, but it's centered all in Chicago. I cover the area outside of Chicago, which is about 80% of its land area and 20% of its population. So,
Yeah, I lived in Illinois for some number of years. Part of the time I worked at Sunstrand in Rockford, and then I worked at Fermilab in Batavia for quite a few years. And then I decided to move back to our farm up here. So I'm up in northwestern Wisconsin on a 160-acre farm here. I suppose the city people would know is Eau Claire. We're about 40 miles southwest of Eau Claire, or 40 miles straight east of St. Paul, depending on, what you're navigating by.
I have a rough idea where that is.
Yeah, I live just south of Menominee, so we have, two universities in the area. It's a really interesting area because it skews both, well, as with a lot of Wisconsin, it skews both really conservative and really liberal, with very little in between, which has made life painful recently here.
I believe that.
I drove through town yesterday and was confronted both by a bunch of the people who've been for the Democratic Party going up on the bridge over the interstate from time to time and hauling out banners and such up there, and they were having a fine old time downtown on the Scout campus trying to get people to go vote. And then I drove right around the corner, and the Republicans were out, and so there were a whole bunch of young Republicans waving Trump flags like crazy. So, it was, had the whole smorgasbord there just in a 4-block drive.
It's more divided in Illinois. Chicago is deep blue, and the Chicago suburbs have become much more Democratic in the past few years. Once you're outside of that area, it's deep red. Except for the college towns like Champaign, even Peoria and Springfield, it's all Republican.
Yeah, I lived in kind of an odd situation when I was at Fermilab because, it's sort of a bubble of life. It's like being in a big graduate school, so all my coworkers were, pretty seriously liberal, but if you left the lab property, things changed really quickly.
And I just have to turn the corner, and Steve Trump's dying.
No, I only have to go to the end of my driveway.
Across the street.
Yeah, there's it's Trump land around here. We had a Trump flag store right up the street from where I live, which was kind of interesting. But things have been, all things considered, fairly calm around here, with the exception of the fact that people's yard signs from both parties seem to be getting stolen at an amazing rate. I've had friends from, both parties have had to replace their signs 7 or 8 times, which seems really petty and silly, no matter which party you're in.
I don't think I've heard too much about that. East in the Springfield area. The closest we've gotten is when there was a Trump truck convoy. Crossed about 3 different counties and came right past the state capitol.
Yeah, we've been having those in our area every Saturday for a while now.
Oh boy.
So they've been real visible. Yeah. And like 150 trucks and cars in it, so it's pretty sizable.
Yeah, because a lot of these are not big towns down around here.
No, well, we've got a couple of sizable towns and then a lot of rural area. There's still a pretty good farming community here. I got, 80 acres of corn and soybeans in my backyard, although I don't personally farm that, but it's a funny property. It's about half corn and soybeans and about half trees. So it's actually quite beautiful. That's it in my background. It's virtually what it looks like out my window.
Yeah, my window shows daycare center on the outside of the block. I'm well inside the city here.
Well, this is my wife's farm. She unfortunately died about a little over a year ago. So it's my farm now, whether I intended to own a farm or not.
I know that feeling a little too well.
So, anything else interesting going on in your area, or with the election?
We're all waiting for the election to happen. Finish.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on for sure. I watched TV for a little while before I came out here, while I was eating some really unsatisfactory egg rolls, which I guess is going to be dinner tonight. I think a lot of people are having very odd meals today.
Yeah, I had unsatisfying frozen pizza myself.
I was going to have a pizza from the bar in town here, but they seem not to be open, which surprised me. Either that or their answering machine screwed up, I'm not sure. But either way, they weren't taking orders, so.
I haven't been able to focus that much of everything else.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to get any other alliance on the call, although nobody else had actually responded as such, so it may be just us.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, everybody's busy tonight, and I think we're in another hour or so all going to be a lot busier.
Oh yeah. Okay, this is interesting. According to the Associated Press, Biden is leading in Texas.
Well, there was some speculation that might happen. It's always a little hard to know. The votes come in pockets, so sometimes, as we've seen in all kinds of elections, sometimes that lead changes a lot during the course of the night. When did the polls close in Texas? I lose track.
I want to say about 20 minutes ago, I think.
That's 7 Central, yeah. Okay, whoa! This is not the most stable table in the whole world here. My computer's on. So, well, it'll be interesting to see. I think so far the returns I've seen seem to be, mostly what you'd expect. The Democrats winning Texas would be a surprise, but not completely shocking. There's been some movement.
It's a big enough surprise that I wasn't expecting. Virginia's gone forward by and Ohio's leading toward Biden. Neither Texas or Ohio have been called.
Yeah, I suspect won't be for some time. So I think all we can do is wait it out.
Yeah. The fact that Texas even leading blue though is just mind-boggling.
Yes, well, it's an interesting place politically. I used to work there part-time. I worked for a consulting company that was based in Austin, so I was in Austin a reasonable amount of time, although anybody will tell you that's not Texas. It's sort of like Madison and Wisconsin. It's an island unto itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that Texas even leading toward Biden. Neither Texas or Ohio have been called.
Yeah,
They say the same thing about Chicago and state Illinois.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's partly that urban-rural thing, which of course is always at play, but there are other things at play there too. I mean, you know, Chicago is such a education and arts center in a lot of ways that it has a lot of its own things going on.
Oh yeah, it's also much more of a recreation destination. I mean, once you get outside the cities, Illinois tends to be rather homogeneous.
Yeah, well, in a lot of ways, Wisconsin is too. Once you get outside of the larger cities, the only real exception to that where I live is we have a pretty big Hmong population, which is probably the only really sizable minority that we have around here.
Yeah, and in Chicago, there's no group has a majority. It's actually the city itself is actually pretty evenly divided between African Americans, white people, and Hispanic, with quite a few Asians in there. As well.
Well, I have to say one of the things I really miss from having lived in the Chicago area for quite a few years is going out to eat. The restaurant choice here is a little different than it is in Chicago.
Yeah, but you can't get a good car in Chicago. So, I'm not living under apartments.
Mm-hmm.
I can actually have a home or a house and not live in a crowded building. But I've never felt anything but safe there.
Well, my nearest neighbor is almost a half a mile from me, so I'm pretty remote.
My nearest neighbor is now about 30 feet, which is a little closer than before.
Well, so I don't know. I hope we get somebody else in on the call, but I don't think that's going to happen since we're almost half an hour in.
Yeah. And I'm still obsessively refreshing. They are going to keep Nevada open later. Actually, they've extended it to 8 p.m.
Because of the number of voters, I assume.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of locations open on time. So the Republicans actually pushed for it to stay open.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I think I saw something about that. There were some technical issues when they were trying to open this morning. Yeah.
I do this every presidential election. Actually, just kind of like watch everything.
I can't read and talk at the same time. So. So, I don't know, unless something really exciting is going on, maybe we should wrap this up for tonight and go watch the return.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not seeing anything that big that happens. Yeah. Probably not going to be till later. Maybe. I'm not seeing anything that big that happens. Probably not going to be till later.
Yeah, and considering some of the things that have been going on and the large number of absentee votes almost everywhere, it could be a good deal later before, we have any idea nationally about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be really interested to see what's happening in Wisconsin
Oh yeah, you're in one of those
with the
swing
down
states.
ballot
That's
vote. Here we've got,
everyone. You're in one of those swing states. That's everyone's watching.
yeah, everybody's watching Wisconsin. Here in our county, we have a Fair Maps initiative on the ballot, and I'll be interested to see how that turns out, although it seems to pass almost everywhere it comes up on ballot in Wisconsin, so I'd assume it will here. I'll be really surprised if it doesn't. We're going to have a really contentious issue going on in the state about what that means. The governor has called a People's Maps Commission, and they're trying to have hearings around the state and hash out what redistricting really should look like. It was particularly contentious. Well, it was particularly contentious here last time around. The Republicans made it about as difficult as possible, including having their own party members having to sign non-disclosure agreements about before they would let them see the maps as they were drawing them. It was all very, very secretive and very carefully worked out. They put a lot of effort into putting the maps in the state into their favor, and as a result, for the last couple of elections, it's been really hard to change any of the seats in the state.
I remember during the last reapportionment, there were a lot of Wisconsin legislators who came down to Illinois so the state assembly couldn't have a quorum to actually vote on all of them.
Well, that was Act 10. That was the union representation thing with the state employees when Scott Walker got all of those laws changed. That was a really contentious time in Wisconsin. With I've spent several days in the Capitol where there were thousands and thousands of people in the state Capitol protesting. It was a really difficult time in the state, and a bunch of the Democratic legislators sneaked off to the Clock Tower Inn in Rockford, which is no longer there, but I knew it well. And they hid out there, and then they dispersed and hid other places to try to keep from being dragged back to the Capitol. It's never boring here.
No. It's depends on how you look at it. Because it's kind of boring down here, which I'm fine. But the intra-party fighting Democrats can be entertaining.
Yeah, I experienced some of that when I lived there. I think that just kind of happens.
Well, they have a supermajority in the assembly, so I mean, they basically run all branches of government.
Well, we're in an odd situation here where we have fairly heavily Republican legislature, but a Democratic governor, and that's making for a lot of difficulty, particularly every time the governor tries to put any kind of regulation in to stem the pandemic. There's litigation over it, and it's been very difficult to get the pandemic under control here at all because of that. Right at the moment, the only statewide rule we have is a face mask rule, and that expires fairly soon, and I don't know what's going to happen at that point.
We're running into that here in Illinois. There are a few laws against the Democratic governor, but with the increase of cases we've had recently, even Democratic mayors and politicians are back again.
Well, here the experience, I think, has been suddenly some of the Republican legislators who have not, met for some time now in the state have said, well, what we're doing now isn't working. Robin Voss, in particular, has said that recently, and although he's willing to say what we have isn't working, I have not seen any movement to actually do anything. So.
It's going to be a long night, I think. At least outside of Illinois, it's going to be a long night.
Yes, I think in Wisconsin it's going to be a particularly long night. So, or running into tomorrow.
Yeah, the EP just called another date, but it's also one that no one really was surprised at. It's Arkansas. Is Donald Trump.
Yeah, well,
surprises no one.
it would have been a shock otherwise. There's that batch of states that I think in both camps, it would be shocking if they didn't turn out the way you think they will.
Yeah, a lot of states so far that have reported in, no one's really surprised at them. Like Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island are lively Democratic.
Well, and those are typically the ones that are easy to call. If the vote's lopsided and the exit polls are lopsided, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what way the state's going to fall. But in states like Wisconsin, which I think will be very close, real close, probably, it may be a long time, especially with some of the issues we have with some of the votes in areas that will be late coming in just by nature.
Yeah, once the big swing states start really counting, that's when things get tense.
Yes, it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting evening.
I dream of boredom.
Yes, I would like a lot more boredom right at the moment.
I'm just taking a look and see what else is going on. A few friends making comments about Mitch McConnell winning his re-election. They are not happy.
Well, yes, there will be people who will not be happy. Let me see what's going on with my social media. Nothing real surprising.
Yeah, they announced the winner of the Senate race in Illinois. Which is Dick Durbin, which again surprises no one.
Well, I think maybe it's time for us to go and head over and watch election returns for a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm out of things to say.
Same here. I'm just gonna be obsessively checking news.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Tom. Nice meeting you again.
Yeah.
And we'll see how the evening goes.
Yeah. Well, keep in touch. Let me know. Hopefully hear something big happen to each of our states.
Yep. It's not like you're very far away, even though, well, I'm not in the close part of the state to you, but none of Wisconsin's all that far away.
Yeah, I'm halfway across the state line.
Yeah, we're in a peculiar place here because, we're basically considered to be in the Twin Cities media market, so In some ways, we're part of Minnesota. It's always a little peculiar.
Yeah. Springfield is its own media market, but we're closer to St. Louis than we are to Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, good luck tonight.
Good luck to you too, and we'll see how things go, and I'll go back to trying to report some of the election results.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Nice
Nice
talking to you, Tom.
Nice talking to you.
Good night.